Hi there, thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, welcome. My name's Catherine, and I make journals out of old books and antique books and interesting books, and sometimes I even make new covers once in a while, but usually it's older antique books, vintage, um, you know, books that I can find at thrift stores. Trying to make room here on my desk. Books that I find at thrift stores and yard sales and book sales and ready for the recycle bin kind of books, which is what this one is that I'm going to work on. And it's kind of nasty looking, and I've even tried my best to clean it, and all these scuff gross marks on it. I actually don't mind them. I tried my best to clean them up, and this thing has been cleaned. I completely wiped it all over with alcohol and did my best. But whatever it's been through in time, this is how time has left it. And I'm going to be doing. I forget how old it is. Let me see if I can find it. It's a very depressing book, so I'm so happy to turn it into a happy book, because it was really, really awful. Especially if you're a woman. The author of this book, he really didn't think very highly of us. Oh boy. Where are we here? 1929. Almost 100 years old. And that's about how antiquated his opinion of women was. So I'm very happy to cover this up and give it a new, delightful reason for existence. It was falling apart. The paper was, as you can see, I couldn't even get the signature threads snipped properly, and then when I realized how horrible it was, because some of the topics caught my eye, and I thought, oh, what's he got to say about this? Oh, let's keep that. That's blank. What has he got to say about this? And what's he got to say about that? And, oh my. And then I read a little further and read a little further, and, oh, very, very depressing book. especially if you're not, well, I'm not going to give him any more of my time. So, template. I knew I had template, and I've already trimmed it. And I don't believe that, because that still looks like there's lots of room. Let's see. Oh, I should trust myself. See? It is already trimmed. Okay. And the rest, the modern woman, there you go. That says it all right there. Don't read any further. You gotta trust me on this. Oh. So I need to start a page for him in my book. I'm going to cover up that page. So, Mansions of Philosophy is not what the book will eventually be known by, because I have a really great idea, I think, and I hope you're going to philosophy. There we go. What did we say? 1929. But I'm going to transform it into a completely different book. Like I said, this book is going to be joyful. Well, yeah. It's going to be cool. So I had an idea the other night. I was laying in bed and I had an idea. And I thought, I got to do this. So I have several copies of a particular book. And part of me thought, why have I got so many copies of this book? I mean, it's such a good book. When I see it, I grab it because it's such a good book. But on the other hand, how many copies do you need? And right now, I have 4. And then I came up with a scathingly brilliant idea. I've done it before. In fact, my gal pal Nancy and I did it along with me before. I think it was a couple of years ago now that we did this. We imposed a self-challenge upon ourselves to create a junk journal, and all of the ephemera that went into the junk journal had to come from one vintage magazine. So, especially for Nancy and I, that's asking a lot. One magazine to make tags, pockets, fun things, and it had to come from one magazine. And the book that I ended up creating, if you look through my playlists here on my channel, look for the video, the flip through playlist. Look for Nicolette. That's the journal that I created, and I used a 1940s, I believe, British magazine, The Woman's Journal, and I really love how it turned out. And I loved the challenge of looking through this magazine and going, all right, what can I do with this? What can I do with that? I loved the advertisements in it, and I loved some of the illustrations were really beautiful, and it was a lot of fun, and I do enjoy a self-imposed challenge. So with this particular book that I've got, I made the spine for Mansions of Philosophy. It might be very wordy in text. It didn't have much of a spine to stand up to its own text. So I created a new spine, and I just wanted a slight curve. So I used, this is the biggest rolling pin I've certainly ever seen. I took the handles off of it, found it at a thrift store one day, and it's a terrific rolling pin. So, and it's 2 inches, which I wanted, a 2-inch spine. Anyhow, so I decided, since I have so many copies of this book, and it's such a marvelous book, I should use this book. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's going to be nice. I should use this book and challenge myself to create all of the ephemera for a journal only from this one book. So cut out the illustrations, the photos, the various other interesting things that are in this book, and create a journal just using this book as my resource for my ephemera. which is such a challenge because I look to my right here and I've got bins of postcards and greeting cards and all kinds of cool things, and I'm not going to touch them. So you're probably wondering, all right, get to it. What is it? What's this book? And so let's get Mr. Duran's dreadful book out of the way. And I will show you. It is The Edwardian Lady. And for those who are unfamiliar with this book, this is the biography of Edith Holden, who did the book that all of us junk journalers love and is probably the Bible of junk journaling. And it's also the unicorn in bookstores and thrift stores to try and find the country diary of an Edwardian lady with her beautiful artwork in it. Well, that book was published in 1977 and reprinted many times. And then in 1980, they did this book, which is the story of Edith Holden's life, which is a very interesting story. Of course, a woman that talented would have an interesting life. And this book, in and of itself, is also chock full of really great stuff to make ephemera out of. In fact, I have a copy over on my shelf that I already have gotten into and cut up for ephemera. But for this particular project, to rebuild this book and give it a new happy life, I plan on trying to use as much as I can out of one untouched copy of The Edwardian Lady. And I'm sure you've seen it, but for those who haven't seen it, it's just full of photos. Parts are sad because she did die young and she died tragically. She drowned in the Thames River. They believe by accident, because she was a naturalist painter and she would collect things and bring them home and paint them, and also paint out in plein air. And they think she was trying to reach for chestnuts and fell in, and with the current and with the weight of her clothing and whether or not she could swim or not, who knows, and she drowned. But look at all these. Isn't this beautiful? Like, look at the artwork that she did. She didn't just do the country diary of an Edwardian lady, she also has a book that's very popular, Nature Notes. She did so many other things. I mean, if you were a friend of hers and lucky enough, you got hand-painted Christmas cards from Edith Holden. These, I believe, this is the only page I will put aside, and I'll put it in with my Christmas things, is the Christmas cards. I won't use those, but things like this, these paintings. But in addition to her paintings and artwork that's also in here, there's cool things. Like, wouldn't that make a great pocket? And it's a postcard she sent to a friend. It's just chock full of things that would be great in a journal. So, and then I was thinking, well, why wouldn't I just use this cover and make a journal and make use of the cover? But first of all, it's just 1980, so it really is. I mean, it's not even vintage. And second of all, it's not nearly as big as I'd like it to be. This is 1 inch, and I know I'm going to need a 2-inch spine for what I want to do with this book, because I still want it to be a writer's kind of journal. So it's going to be full of tea-dyed paper and ledger paper, and those kind of papers are allowed. I've got to be able to have pages in my book. And so I decided no, I was not going to make it out of the actual cover that it comes with. But that will still be put to use. And in fact, I did already start taking apart the copy that I'm going to use. This is just one that I'm using to show you this book. Look at the difference in color from the difference of the printing and where it was, which printing of it was. It was, I think they did 3 printings of it. That's either mine or Kirby's. Kirby has long hair on her ears and her tail. And the rest, she's like a cottony, fluffy, woolly lamb. Anyhow, I believe there were like 3 printings alone in 1980 of this book. So I took it apart already, and I thought for a little while that, well, maybe I could even save the spine and use the spine and put the spine on to the book. Where did I put the spine? Hold on. Here we go. So you can see I took it apart. Then I thought, oh, I wonder if I could flatten this out and maybe just use the spine and put it onto a new book. I was open to maybe having the book be a bit smaller, but still nice thick spine. I was open to using, I have lots of book covers for various reasons. Sometimes I just have the cover of a book left, and I save them because I'll use them to make journaling boards and things like that, which is what I'll do with this. But then I decided I didn't want to put this on the spine because I don't want this journal to be an obvious homage to Edith Holden. I don't want it to become like an in memoriam thing. I want it to be a junk journal, and then for those of us who know and start looking and recognizing things, go, oh my goodness, this is all taken from that book. Do you know what I mean? So it's not my intention for the journal that I create to be a dedication to Edith Holden. Because at first I thought, oh, I might use this, or I may find one tiny way to put a tip of the hat. Maybe turn this into a bookmark or something like that. But otherwise, I want to use these things the way I've used them in the past. Like, her father was a historical hottie. Where's the picture of her father? Oh my goodness. Well, there he is later in life. He was still a historical hottie even when he was older. There we go. No wonder she was so lovely. And her sister Evelyn. Oh, she was beautiful too. I've used Evelyn before on the cover of a journal. There's Evelyn. Right there. Isn't she lovely? She was also an artist. The whole family was very talented. Anyhow, so that's my self-imposed challenge. So I hope that you will enjoy coming along with me as I make my next journal and as I try to come up with ideas on, these are going to get put away for now. I'm going to use the end papers. I'm even tempted to see if there's a way, it's a little bit smaller, a way to maybe make a panel within so it can still be end papers. I don't know, but these will go, those will go into the book. And I'm going to experiment a bit to see if I can use this illustration and the pretty illustration on the back, but I don't like that it's glossy, so I'm going to experiment and see what I can do to remove some of that gloss. If you've got some suggestions, please write them down below. I know that Mod Podge matte is still too glossy, so I'm not even going to try painting it with Mod Podge matte. I'm open to doing a test spot on another area of maybe the aerosol Mod Podge matte might be enough to just spray it and tone down that gloss. I don't think sandpaper will work. I think it's too thin, and I'll just remove the illustration. And I don't think that matte, this stuff that I botched my experiment number 1 with, that's way too much matte. I do have some matte varnish that I'm also willing to give a try on a test spot and see if that will tone down the glossiness, because I would like to try to maybe use those. So let me put these aside. Now this needs to get glued in place. I cleaned out as best I could the old spine liner that was in here. Oh, let me turn my timer back on. I turned it off while I was looking for something. And I don't want to talk too long and go over time. It was disintegrating into dust. So I actually had to put a mask on and scrape away at it and brush away at it. And I think I did very well in getting the old spine liner out of this book. Oh, that's what I forgot to tell you. How dreadfully bound this book is. It's one of those books where the pages are even all different lengths. Like, look at this. It's not even the same length as this one. I had to, in order to choose the folio that's going to be my template, I had to make sure that I had a full-size one because the publisher just didn't even bother using all the same size papers. And I even wonder if this man self-published and just went with the least expensive publisher that he could afford to pay because maybe one of the big publishers wouldn't publish his book. I don't know. I shouldn't be so cruel. It'll haunt me tonight, I know it. Anyhow, I'm just going to... So this can go in. Let's get that done. When I'm doing a large surface, and it doesn't have to be really fussy, I prefer to use the big bottle of the 3-in-1 as opposed to my little Sugar Bell bottle. Gets the glue out faster. But these bottles usually are quite hard on my hands because they're just really, really thick plastic and hard to squeeze. really hard on your hands if you've got sore hands. And certainly hard on your hands if you've got to squeeze it for any length of time. Oh my goodness. So 3-in-1 Fabri-Tac, your glue of choice. This is the glue I like to use when I'm putting a new spine liner that's especially a hard one like this into an older book. I will spread it out because sometimes if you leave it in blobs, it will, a blob of the glue, is that an official term? A blob of the glue can soak right through the fabric. On the other hand, I will be covering up that spine so that we don't even know what its previous life was. It's going to be completely transformed. And that just makes me so happy that it's going to be chock full of Edith instead of what it once was full of. It wasn't that awful. I mean, it was pretty typical of his time, what he wrote. Women weren't highly thought of. He was pretty typical of, the women, our lot in life is to be barefoot and pregnant and in the kitchen. And I think one part of it, he said that a woman who attempts a career would be a very dull woman indeed, not fulfilling her life's duty. Fortunately, I'm able to smile about it and know that this is going to be wonderful when it's done. And I bet even he'll feel better about it. He'll think, oh yeah, because it's around the same time as Edith Holden. And look what she was able to accomplish even in her short life. She was 48 when she passed away. And she created some beautiful artwork in those 48 years. So I'm putting the original text block back in and shoving it right to the back because that curve that I've created here, because it's once again damp from applying 3-in-1 to it, it could take on a new shape, and I don't want it to. So the very best thing you can do is stick the text block back in and stick a brick on top, or a rock, or another book. Normally I would hang it over the edge of my desk like this, and at the end of the day I would use a brick. Imagine that this is a brick. And I would put a brick there, and just that way that part of the hinge will remember what I wanted to do, and so will this part. But for the time being, I want to show you what my plans are, at least for the spine. I have this really cool fabric. I have bits and pieces of it left, but I really love it because it's got cool artwork on it, and it's got the Latin names for the cool art, the flowers, and this is all I've got left, so I will be sad when it's gone, but I've got still quite a bit left. It's covered in black flecks from that spine that I cleaned out. Black dust everywhere in here. So what I think I'd like to do, sadly these are just not, that would be going sideways and that would bug me. Same with this one. It's not wide enough. And I really want some of the red flowers and where it got torn. This one can't be used. Same with this. Not sure what it was. I got it at a thrift store. That would have been good, but I was hoping maybe this was full. And it wasn't. So that one can't be used. So this is the only one that I can work with, but that red looks quite nice with this red. And I don't know if let me turn this back again. There we go. I hope my voice wasn't too loud. Man, the microphone was right at my mouth. It's quite close. I think this is what I want to use, and I'm going to just completely cover this spine. I thought for a while of maybe putting, a little, one of the little paintings from out of the text block and frame it, and put that there, and maybe a library label. And then I've got lots of options for here to cover this up and mount it on a board with brads and of course a book plate, so that I could put the title in there. It'll almost be like an Edith Allsorts book. So that's my plan, Stan. And I think that's going to be what I'm going to do with the spine. But I'm going to take one last look through my basket of fabric before I finally decide what I cover this with. And I may very well also shabby chic this and do some stitching around it. It's such a poor quality. I have a feeling my sewing machine will go through that very easily. And I would be able to sew around it a few times and maybe have some fun with it, and maybe have some fun with some of the Latin. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, well, so now you know what I'm up to. I am up to playing around with the Edwardian lady and giving her a new life, a new secret life inside a new book. At first, when I started looking through what I had on my shelves over there, I kept going to the green books, and then I realized I don't have to use a green book. Edith used lots of color in her artwork. Look at all the colors she used. I don't have to go with green. No, that's beautiful. So that's when I realized that this suited me size-wise. It also suited me grunge-wise because I actually like all these mucky grunged-up bits and the bent-up corners. I like those. yeah, this is, I'm very much looking forward to this self-imposed challenge of recreating a new journal out of a beautiful book of artwork and photographs and paperwork and handwritten postcards and sketches. I'm very much looking forward to this. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope you'll continue to join me as I work through this book. And whatever I don't catch on camera, I'll try to remember, catch on video, I'll try to remember to take photos and be updating in photos on Instagram so that you can see what I'm doing in between videos. Take care. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll get together soon. Bye.